thanks everyone for joining us at the Black Wall Street Times. I'm Alexandria, your podcast host, and today we have Kalisha Figures. She's a senior advisor at When We All Vote, and she's going to talk to us about making sure that we're able to get young people energized and ready to vote. We just had our primary elections in many states. I'm in one of those states in Maryland. So we had our primary elections, and I know there were primary elections in New York. And so we just want to have our viewers talk to you guys today. Just talk to our viewers to just learn about what we can do moving forward. So, Kalisha Figures, can you just tell us a little bit about your role at When We All Vote and what made you get involved in Michelle Obama's organization?
I am a senior advisor at When We All Vote, and I'm
Hmm.
I'm so excited to play that role. I get to steward our strategy for engaging people across this country, and particularly young people and communities of color. When We All Vote is a national, nonpartisan organization founded by former First Lady Mrs. Michelle Obama, and we have three goals. We want to increase participation in every election. So that doesn't just mean people are coming out every 4 years to vote. That means our midterm years. It means primaries. It means local school board races and everything in between. We want to close the race and age voting gap. We know that
Hmm.
there are gaps for young people. There are gaps
Hmm.
for people of color, and we want to close those participation gaps. And we also want to change the culture around voting. So a lot of what you'll see about us is we're not doing the conventional check your voter registration and call it a day. We are talking to young people, talking to, voters where they are on their couches, through their phones, through the culture, in cultural moments, to really get them excited about voter participation.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kalisha. So you were just telling me about your career at When We All Vote and just how you got started, and just tell me a little bit about why this particular job and why it's so important right now in this moment in politics.
I mean, in this moment, I think when I think about specifically young people across this country, when I think about young people of color, like they want
Hmm.
to see themselves in this democracy. And at the same time, there are so many threats to our democracy right now. But I mean, what we've learned about young people through this role, we just launched a new effort called Pass the Mic to Gen Z. We've researched heard from tens of thousands of young people across this country. They are
Hmm.
hungry for a strong democracy. They care about issues. They want to show up. They want their voices to be heard. And so it's a tough moment, but
Hmm.
it is also a promising moment when we listen to
Hmm.
this generation. And the reason why I think this work is so important right now, because we have the opportunity to get it right. We have the opportunity to listen authentically to young people, to get them the information that they need about connecting the issues that they care about to showing up at the ballot boxes, right? So there's so much opportunity there. And I think our democracy looks so much stronger when it is representative of the people within it. And we do that through exercising that power of voting.
Yeah, I mean, that's really powerful, especially when you think about what young people care about. They care about what's happening in Gaza. They care about climate change. They care about student loans. What are some of the top issues when it comes to some of the priority issues that young people are thinking about as we head into the election?
Yeah, and we have that answer because we listen to young people. We did an
Okay.
initial survey of almost 6,000 young people across this country, and we asked them
Mm-hmm.
what are those top issues. The economy is
Mm-hmm.
front and foremost right now. Cost of living, affordability, what young people are paying at the gas tank. They know the difference between I could fill up with 25 versus I need 45. Groceries. And alongside affordability, healthcare and housing were a close second and third. The economy, healthcare, and housing, and all of those are tied to cost of living and tied, frankly, to basic needs. And we surveyed our young, people of color, and other issues came up, right? Whether it's racism and race dynamics in this country or climate change were certainly issues that were important too. But economy, healthcare, housing, front and foremost, top of the list for young people we found.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I've seen like young people are looking at the government a little bit differently now. Are you seeing people wanting to to move away from a two-party system or have a multi-party system. What are you hearing
Yeah,
so
well,
far?
here's what I will say we did learn specifically from young people. In this generation of Gen Z, only 44% of young people are actually identifying with strongly with a political party. That means more than half of young people, they might say they lean in one direction or see themselves agreeing with, one certain policies of a party and not others. But in terms of really like, I am a Democrat, I am a Republican, it's only 44% of young people. So what is that
Wow.
telling us? It's telling us that they are breaking the norms. We're in this political landscape where you very much so have to be on one camp or the other, right? Where we've gotten so divisive across this two-party system. But young people are really just, showing up as independents and showing up and saying that they care about issues, they care about the people who will best represent them, and they're not ready to just subscribe themselves to a party, to a party system or not. So I don't want to insinuate too much, and does
Mm-hmm.
that mean they want to see a, four party system or multiple party system, or we're going to get more into that as we listen to them on solutions. But what I do know is that engaging them in a nonpartisan way, engaging them outside of the confines of a Democratic Party or a Republican Party, that is really important because they're not subscribing to this two-party system.
That's quite powerful, but especially now that we're going into the primary elections and some states have closed the elections for primary. So if you're independent, at least in Maryland,
Totally.
you can't vote in the primaries. So how are you training young or organizations to target young voters with civic engagement and how they can better understand how they can get involved beyond just voting? Yeah.
So we are, sorry, say that you're asking.
Well, just how you're engaging with young voters beyond voting. I know that's voting
Yes,
is like your biggest
yes,
that's your
totally.
yeah.
Voting is an issue, and it's something that we encourage, people, young people, Americans to do. But we're also engaging them just around talking about issues that they care about. We're engaging them around taking action within their communities, right? For example,
Mhm.
this Pass the Mic to Gen Z, tour that we're doing across this country. We have stops in Houston. We just spent the weekend in Philadelphia and Seattle at FIFA World Cup games talking to young people. We'll be at the NBA Summer League later this summer. Our goal is not to go there and register young people to vote. Our goal is to go there and engage them in issues and have them talk about
Mhm.
issues and have them talk about the direction that they want to see in this country and have them connect some of the dots between what they care about and action that they can take. So we want to make it
Mhm.
clear that it's not just about making it to the ballot box. It's about how you're caring about issues and how you see those issues playing out, within your communities.
No, that's important. And I'm seeing a lot of young politicians run for office, especially coming out of the South. There's two men that I quite admire, Justin Pearson and another Justin, forgot his last name, but
Mm-hmm.
they both have been leading the march. So just looking at all roads lead to the South, this political campaign. How is your organization supporting this political campaign or other civic organizations to help bring people power back to Congress?
We are doing it through the work we do every single day, engaging
Mhm.
young people and engaging voters. Listen, this is personal to me. All
Mhm.
roads lead to the South. I was there. I was there with my four little ones
Okay.
for that multi-generational moment of protest. I
Mhm.
live and raise my kids in Mobile, Alabama. So, if people in the South think voting looks a little bit different this year after the Supreme Court's decision, it's because it does. And this is a really important moment to connect the fight of the generation before us, the fight for voting rights, to this moment when those things are at risk, right? When we might not have as much voice or, political power in Congress. And so the role of When We All Vote is to really ensure that people understand this moment. We do a ton around educating and providing information to voters. And in this case, it's not just about the issues that are on the ballot. They need to know across the South what this Supreme Court decision has done and what it means, right? What does
Right.
redistricting mean? It's so much more than just the lines on a map. It's really about whose voices are and are not heard. And we know the history of the South. We know civil rights was born in the South, right? Voting rights, right, really came to life in the South. And so for When We All Vote, it's all about educating folks across the South about this moment, educating them about the real changes that are happening, right? There are some states in Alabama, for example, we had an entire election canceled and a new primary put on the calendar. And voters need to know about that. They need to know when to show up next. They also need to know that regardless of how you draw a map, the power is in the people. People are still there and have the opportunity to show up and vote. So it doesn't matter what their intentions were to do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
People, voters, will really have the last say.
That's right. Voters will definitely have the last say. And when you think about what's happening in the South, is there like any specific actions that When We All Vote is taking in terms of addressing voter suppression? Do you have like a Southern strategy or
We
you know?
absolutely do. The moment that this
Okay.
redistricting happened across the South, we have priority states that we really make
Mm-hmm.
sure that we focus on voter registration, we focus on voter education, information sharing, getting out dates and deadlines. And it was our strategy that once we saw this decision come out, those southern states that were impacted were raised up to be a priority as we do that work. And so it seems really like bread and butter and simple, but like what we are going to do across the South is up our reach in reaching young people and reaching people, prospective voters, ensuring that they are registered to vote, ensuring that they're ready to vote, ensuring that they know what's on their ballots, that they know when they need to show up. We have to do that work. And it seems really monotonous, but it's going to be really important to countering, any and all efforts to suppress voter turnout.
No, that's important because there's a lot of voter apathy that's happening, particularly in the Black community, and even more so for young Black men. Politico wrote an article that stated that Black men still feel discouraged from voting and are skeptical that elections actually improve their lives. So, what is When We All Vote doing to address voter apathy in this particular demographic? Yeah.
We are infused in the culture, and that is
Okay.
really important. We are not the ones, as staff of When We All Vote, talking to young people every single day. We know that we need ambassadors, we need celebrities, we need athletes, we need people that they trust, we need creators, we need influencers. So one thing that we're doing is really trying to share that information with young, Black folks across this country, young Black men,
Hmm. Hmm.
from voices that they really trust and want to listen to and engage in, right? So that's one thing we're doing. So it's the messaging piece. The second piece we're doing, again, is the listening, right? Pass the Mic to Gen Z is all about listening to young Black people, including young Black men across this country, in order to understand the issues that they really care about. And then I think we also have to do a little bit of breaking down how we talk about this. Exactly what you just said, right? Because what you said, there's some truth to that. But we
Hmm.
also have to understand that, there's some people who are like, young people just don't care, too much about our democracy, right? They're not going to show up. Black men are not going to show up. They're not sure. They don't believe the systems work for them, so they're not going to show up. And like, yes, there is real frustration, right? There's real disillusion. It's because they're calling out systems that really truly are not working for their communities, that they've seen have not worked for their communities time and time again. But our research also shows that they're willing to get out there. They are willing to vote. When they have a candidate that they're excited about, talking about the issues that they care about in an authentic way, they're willing to show up. We just need to better connect those dots for them. And so that's the work we're really trying to do through through our program, really trying to engage them through cultural moments.
Okay, yes. No, that's really important to be able to engage with young people and get them excited about voting. And beyond that, like, now with the economy, just really is in a dire state. 600,000 Black women have lost their jobs. And then young Black women who have graduated from college, they're not as optimistic based on conversations I've had as well as articles I've read about their future. So, how does When We All Vote address these economic challenges at the policy level? Like beyond the voting, how do you encourage your your members, if you will, to address these issues, to go beyond voting and really push this at the policy level.
Well, the role we play is connecting the policy to voting. That is the
Mm-hmm.
role that we could uniquely play. And I am not going to lie, like I am a Black woman, so I see Black women across this country. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a real struggle happening, right? It is
Right,
no
right.
longer the case that if I just like go and get that degree and graduate, I will be fine. There are Black women, and I know them because they're my little sisters and my little cousins who are graduating, right? And they can barely afford rent, right? They don't have a salary that's making ends meet, right? Their affordability is in real crisis. And so I think for us, it's about educating when we talk about rent prices or rent control, like that has to do with your city council and your mayor, right? When we talk about what resources are available if you're a young parent, right? That has to do with the local elected officials that you elect into office. So we do a lot of voter education to really make connections between what are the policies they care about, whether it is childcare, whether it is affordability, whether it is transportation, and what that actually means for what is on the ballot and how they're able to influence those decisions.
Okay. And then speaking of voter education, are you going into the schools or how are you working with universities to make sure students are aware of like their not only their rights, their constitutional rights, but just how our government works and what the role of government is in terms of improving their own lives? Yeah.
We absolutely work with schools and universities. I think more importantly, we work with student groups that are on, college campuses, university campuses. That's a really clear way to get directly, you like work directly with students who are engaging other students. Our Pass the Mic listening tour will be at a university down in Texas next
Okay.
month. Last month, we were at North Carolina A&T, engaging students across the campus, listening to their voices, engaging them in civic engagement and participation. So we absolutely see schools as partners in this work. But we also know that like college campuses and universities aren't the only place to engage young people, right? Some are
Mm-hmm.
joining directly into the workforce, some are in trades, right? And so that's why we have this both and approach of like, yes, to schools and college campuses, and also yes to figuring out what are the digital tools that we have, where are the other cultural moments we could show up to make sure that we're not leaving anyone behind and reaching, young people every single place that they are.
Yeah, I mean that's really important, especially young people. I find my son, he'll tell me what's happening on TikTok news wise before I
Mhm.
find out about it. So definitely young people are paying attention. But how are you using social media? Because social media is also a place where there's a lot of misinformation and people are making over analysis, I would say, over analyzing issues without looking at the full picture and not explaining in a way that is always clear and concise. So just
Yeah.
kind of want to get your take on
Hmm.
how your organization is managing misinformation.
Absolutely. It's something we all have to combat: misinformation, disinformation. AI is huge. You always have to ask yourself, like, what is real? What is fabricated? So I think one of the best ways we do this is
Mm-hmm.
through trusted messengers, right? For example, to reach our young voters and our young voters of color, we just launched a Gen Z ambassador program where we have, actresses like a Marseille Martin, or, folks like a Miles Robinson, a Gabby Thomas, influencers like an Alandria Carthen, who people know, right? People have watched the shows and seen these folks and their trusted voices. And so we work hand in hand with them to get
Mm-hmm.
young people the information that they need so that they're able to break down the elections that are coming up, what redistricting means, what issues around affordability mean for young people. I think if they see it coming from voices that they know and trust, they're able to cut through more than having to decide, right? Just based off of information that is not coming from trusted sources or trusted messengers. They're able to discern a little bit more and make smarter choices about the information that they're getting.
Yeah, that's important, especially with these influencers. I think
Yep.
organizations like yourself have to, just hop on a Instagram live and talk to
Yep.
people because that's where the young people are. Kind of going back to Black communities, since that's what our focus is on Black issues with the Black Wall Street Times. How How do you see the legacy of the civil rights movement impacting how young people engage in civil participation today? Like we saw what's happening with the All Roads Lead to the South, and a
Yeah.
lot of young people on the stage, which was really powerful. So, how do you see that legacy on fighting for voting rights, kind of like impacting how young people engage in politics today? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who lives in Alabama, we go down every year to Selma and we
Mhm.
recross that bridge to just remember our ancestors that came before us, leaders that came before us, and their fight for voting rights and civil
Mhm.
rights. That influence for most of my life has been there because we've literally seen those leaders still here leading their legacy, right? When you think
Mhm.
about a Congressman John Lewis, right? We've seen him not only walk across the bridge, but be a leader, right, in
Mhm.
Congress for, decades after that, right?
Mhm.
I think that, one thing that we have to recognize as we
Mhm.
engage Gen Z and Gen Alpha,
Mhm.
they haven't seen those leaders in their lifetime. There will be a generation removed, right? And so I think what is important is ensuring that we, through the work that we do, are carrying forward that legacy, doing things like ensuring that our young people know and can connect to our civil rights and voting rights story will always be important because we can't take it for granted, right? If they haven't seen these people or leaders, right, we can't take it for granted that they're making those connections, right, between our history around voting rights and what's happening today. So it's a lot around education. It's a lot around just carrying forward that legacy. And that's why what we learn in schools, what we learn, right, in history is enormously important because it really does show us, even in tough moments when we think about our democracy and what's happening with redistricting, and it feels like there's no path forward. There is, right? Generations before have found that path forward. They have found it in tougher times. They have organized, they have turned people out. So like we do have a recipe for what is possible, but we really have to remember the legacy of what the people who came before us and the work that they led in civil rights and voting rights.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, we can't be discouraged because so many people came before us and they were able to make impact. And so, why not today, our young people be able to do the same? So, just kind of closing out, how do you see young people like making sure they stay connected to politics, not be discouraged, and be able to move forward as we move into this election season?
I think I feel hopeful. I feel like
Okay.
there's going to be some energy from young people. It feels tough right now, but I also think that young people have seen some wins in just feeling like they have the power to organize. They have the
Mm-hmm.
power to see the things that they want to see in communities, right? I mean, it is no accident that as you see elections pop up in this country where you see Gen Z, young people themselves running for office, younger people running for office, it brings about a different level of excitement, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
young people want to see themselves, not only in issues that they care about being reflected, but also in the people who are fighting for those issues, right? I think young people know what's at stake. I think young people love their communities. I think they care deeply about issues. So I feel hopeful that they'll rise to the occasion in this moment. Nothing in our research has told us that they are checked out and disillusioned and don't care. They're
Mm-hmm.
frustrated. They're frustrated
Yeah,
at
they're
real issues
frustrated.
happening, right? And so I think if
Yeah.
we listen more, do less talking at them, really engage them in an authentic way, and I think if they're able to continue to see that, like, the decision that they made led to a different outcome, that we'll start to really see an uptick in how they're showing up in voting and in our democracy.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, young people are definitely engaged. They're watching the news, they're watching TikToks, they're talking
Hmm.
to their friends, especially in the DC area. I find kids probably talk a little bit more about politics than maybe
Yep.
in other countries, but nevertheless, they care.
Yep.
They want to change. So, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. I think organizations like When We All Vote are definitely making a huge impact in making sure we have more young people voting in this upcoming election because your vote does count. So
It
thank
does.
you so much, Kalisha Figures. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining us.
absolutely. You're so good to be with you. Thank you.
Okay.